Hello everyone. I figure since you're going to be hearing from me a lot more on this new platform, I might as well introduce myself formally with a little slideshow. My name is Stephen Brooks. I was born on March 20th, 1986 in White Plains, New York. Neither of my parents were really animal people. My mother had 2 dogs, but that was the extent of her limited interest in the animal kingdom. My father never even had a pet growing up, and his favorite animals were the mascots of the sports teams he watched. They were, however, very good about making sure my sister and I grew up around animals. We had dogs, cats, fish, and even some more exotic species like parakeets and ferrets. By the time I was old enough to wander around outside alone, I was constantly down at our local ponds catching frogs and turtles. I would often bring home an assortment of creatures, much to the dismay of my mother, and I raised many a caterpillar until they metamorphosed. Once I learned the value of money, I would occasionally catch garter snakes and charge my parents $10 to get them out of the house. During high school, I volunteered at a local raptor center, and after graduation, I was hired on as their volunteer coordinator. During this time, I did educational demonstrations at schools and camps. After high school, I also traveled to Costa Rica for a bit of a photo safari, but that was before digital cameras were commonplace, so I burned through many rolls of film, taking unimpressive photos. Some of the highlights include a pair of scarlet macaws, a boat-billed heron, and a river full of crocodiles. I attended college in Florida for a specialized zoo animal science major, where I was able to work with the diverse animal collections of several more zoos and wildlife rehabilitation centers. During this time, my main focuses were African hoofstock, lemurs, reptiles, and education. I also became enamored with arachnids, much to the dismay of my arachnophobic mother and sister. I know that probably makes most of you cringe, but remember this because it becomes important later. Around this time, I got my first real DSLR camera. Perfect timing too, because after college, I traveled to Madagascar to volunteer at a conservation center, mainly working with reptiles, like this panther chameleon. Afterwards, I toured much of the island nation and saw many amazing creatures and took many slightly out of focus pictures of them. Some of my favorite encounters include getting up close and personal with a brown lemur and Diademid sifaka, as well as this bamboo lemur. I crossed paths with a Phaneloca, also known as a Malagasy civet, on a trail. I spotted a Madagascar fish eagle, one of the rarest birds in the world. And I saw Indries, the world's largest non-extinct lemur, with an infant, and got to hear their haunting call. After my trip, I moved back to New York with a sizable collection of exotic invertebrates that I had accumulated during my college studies, including several tarantulas. I had paired one of these spiders with a mate, and was soon the proud papa of over 200 spiderlings. I sold most of them off to various collectors, and in doing so met a girl with her own menagerie of parrots, frogs, and invertebrates, including one of the largest species of cockroach in the world, the giant Cuban cave roach. She was smart, fun, and wicked cute, but had questionable taste in romantic partners. We were married just over a year later at a wildlife center. We have had many fun adventures together, such as seeing humpback whales off the coast of Massachusetts, birding and herping on the island of Aruba, where we spotted animals like troop eels, Aruban whiptails, black-necked stilts, and the prickitchi, the national bird of Aruba. We've also done some snorkeling in the Caribbean with cushion starfish and the impressive French angelfish. It was after a trip to Alabama that we decided to move down here as we fell in love with the nature and wildlife of the area. We have been here for over 10 years now and share our home with many creatures that we call family, like Mando, the pygmy goat, Fury the cat, and Ripley the green-winged macaw, to name but a few. During the pandemic, I spent most of my time outdoors, falling back in love with photography, a hobby that I had always dabbled in but never really took the time to get good at. After a bit of practice, I went from taking pictures like this to taking pictures like this. Unfortunately, after a fairly mild case of COVID, I got hit with long COVID, and my lung function dropped to about 70%. I still get winded quite easily, but thankfully wildlife photography is not a fast-paced activity. I spend as much free time as I can slowly wandering the woods and the fields, looking for birds and other creatures, and celebrating their magnificence through my lens. Once I upgraded to a mirrorless camera, I decided I would try to make something out of my photography, and make a little money, while spending as much time as possible outside with all these amazing animals. Thus, SB Wildlife was born. I've spent the last year and a half growing my website and Facebook, and I'm now just starting this YouTube channel. I have many exciting plans for this new venture, and I hope you will stick around to see them become reality. I have much I want to share with you, so please like and subscribe, and come on this adventure with me.